Laban and Jacob agreed that after 7 years he would be able to marry Rachel, but after the 7-year period, Laban substituted Leah for Rachel. After discovering his uncle had tricked him, Jacob agreed to serve another 7 years. In addition to Leah and Rachel, Jacob also married Zilpah and Bilhah, 2 members of Laban's household. Leah bore him 7 children: Reuben, Simon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Dinah. Rachel was childless until 7 years into the marriage. Our lesson starts as she is blessed with a son, Joseph, Jacob's oldest son from his favorite wife. Before her death, Rachel bore a son, Benjamin. Jacob's 2 other wives also bore him children. Bilhah gave him Dan and Naphtali. Zilpah bore Gad and Asher. These 12 sons would become the progenitors of the 12 tribes of Israel. This lesson depicts 2 con artists, each trying to out-con the other. With the grace of God, it was Jacob who comes out the winner, but for reasons completely different from those he expected. After the birth of Joseph, Jacob planned to return to Canaan. During his time with Laban, the household had prospered and Laban's wealth had increased. Remember, in Laban's house, Jacob was an exile and a servant. Jacob now wanted to return to Beersheba, so he asked Laban to let him depart. But Laban, knowing the divine blessing that rested on everything that Jacob touched and how his wealth had grown because of Jacob, did not want him to leave. Laban bargained with Jacob, asking, "What wages do you want?" And Jacob said, "I will continue to tend your flocks. In exchange, I will get a flock of my own. Let me pass through your entire flock today, removing every speckled and spotted sheep, and every black one among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. My wages will come from that increase." Normally, goats in the land were black or brown, seldom white or spotted with white. On the other hand, the sheep were nearly always white, infrequently black or spotted. In essence, Jacob offers to continue to tend the sheep of Laban if he receives the rare offspring of the flock. Laban's thinking, "I'm getting a good deal here." Jacob examined the flock that day, removing all the speckled and spotted animals, and these would be set aside as Laban's property. Even more assurance, these animals would be taken 3 days' distance and kept by Laban's son, so that they could not mate with the other single-colored animals. Only those newly born, spotted and striped would become Jacob's property. At some later time, the herd would be examined, and the spotted and striped animals would become Jacob's, while the rest would be Laban's. Removing the spotted and striped, which were in the flock, benefited Laban in 2 ways. First, it left these current animals to Laban, not Jacob. Second, it lessened the chances of other spotted and striped animals being conceived because they had separated the flock by color. Jacob stayed while Laban tried all kinds of trickery to cheat Jacob out of his payment under their agreement. But God blessed Jacob, and his flock multiplied rapidly until he became a rich man. In fact, Jacob's flock thrived so well that he became the object of admiration all over the country, and sheep breeders from far and wide came to deal with Jacob. Thus, his wealth was increased many times, and his household was augmented with many servants and slaves. Jacob's farming techniques were not good science. Jacob's success was not the product of his scheme, but of God's grace. Sometimes Christians foolishly conclude that their success is proof of God's blessings and approval of our sinful tactics. We, like Jacob, suppose that our methods are acceptable to God because we are successful.
Wells Fargo has fired 5,300 employees related to a ghost bank account scandal.
We try to excuse our deceitful ways by insisting that the only way to survive in today's society is to out-con the con, to fight fire with fire, to get into the mix. We are commanded not to be victorious, but to be obedient. That's the lesson for this week. Have a great week. Happy Thanksgiving. Bye.